Hello and welcome to this video where I want to demonstrate how to create a raid in World of Warcraft Classic and some of the abilities or configurations you can do in the raid. So here I have a party. I have two members in my party. They're offline, but it doesn't matter for this purpose. So if I right click my icon, I can go down to instance options and I can click convert to raid. And now I have converted it into a raid. I can have a maximum of 8 groups. So I clicked O and went to raid. I have a maximum of 8 groups, each of 5. So that's 40 players. And with 40 players, you can bring 40 players to a couple, several different raids, including Blackwing Lair, Molten Core, and Onyxia. And when you set this up, you can move the players around like this, and it'll create different groups. This is the default setting. The setting I like, however, is if you go to Escape or Main Menu down here, and you go to Options and Interface, and then you scroll down to Raid Frames. So what I like to do is I like to keep the groups together. So you separate the groups to make it easy to see that they're different. I like to display the power bars so that then you can see if someone is low on mana, like the healers or caster DPS. I like to use display class colors because each different class will have a different color, so I can very easily see the class just by looking at the groups. I don't typically use pets, but that's something you can have if you want to be able to see the pets. Display main tank and assist, I find that very useful, and I also use display border and show debuffs. So it'll show the debuffs that are on players. And then if you want to check this one, it'll only show debuffs that can be dispelled. So you may not want to see things that can't be dispelled, but that's up to you. So if you have this setting, it'll look like this. Now, if you click here, you can click unlock, and then you can move this around, and you can set it where you want. And then whenever you like it, you can lock it, and now it won't be able to move again. So this is kind of the position I like to have it. And then if it's a full raid with 5 players in each of the 8 groups, there'll be 40 different players here, so there'll be 8 groups here, so it kind of fits into the space. That's how I set it up. If you want to check if people are ready, you can do a ready check. It'll show here when they reply if they're ready or not, or if they are away from the keyboard and they don't reply. Eventually it'll time out and it'll get an X, so you can see if the group is ready. You can make everyone an assistant, and if you make them an assistant, other people will be able to add people to the raid, invite other people. You may or may not want that. Another thing is, let's just put them all into group 1. You can make someone a raid leader. So currently I'm the raid leader. I created the raid. But you can make someone else the raid leader, or you can make someone an assistant. So if you make someone an assistant, so the raid leader has that full crown, but the assistant has the crown, but it's not filled in the inside. You can see the difference between the raid leader and the raid assistant. So I made those assistants. If I want to remove the assistant from them, I have to do what's called demote them. So I can demote them. They're no longer assistants. I can also set someone up to be a loot master. In order for someone to be master looter, in order for someone to be a master looter, first you have to change the loot options or the loot option to master looter. So there's going to be one individual that can loot, and depending on the threshold of the rarity of the item, people can loot like normal, the lower rarity, but this is the threshold. So if I set that for epic, for example, only the master looter can loot epics, but rare, uncommon, and lower thresholds can be looted by anyone. And we'll go on a group loot type of way. But set that up as master looter, for example. Well, I don't want to set myself as master looter. I want to set this person as a master looter. So I right click and promote the master looter. So now SpiderX is the master looter, and I, as the raid leader, will set the threshold for the master looting. So even though this individual is now the master looter, I am the one that controls the threshold, and I can change it during the raid as long as we're not in combat. And you can see here below, it says that this individual is now the master looter and what the threshold is. So rare, or I can set it to uncommon, or I can set it to epic. So that's how the master looter works. But there's also additional thresholds other than these three, uncommon, rare, and epic. If I go into a macro, which I'll add into the description of the video, I can set that up. So for this, I'll set myself as the master looter. So I'll make myself the master looter, and I'll go to my macro. And so the macro is /script SetLootMethod parentheses and then master, and then the name of the player and the server, and then the loot threshold, which is 1 through 5. So I have to change the name. I have to drag this down here. So I have to change the name. So my server is whitemane, but my name is ArcaneVortex. So you can see ArcaneVortex is my name. So I save that, and then I said I want to set the loot threshold to 1. So I'm going to run this macro. So I spelled my name wrong or something. ArcaneVortex. No, that's right. Okay, so I'm going to copy this into and delete this one. Maybe there was a spelling mistake or something, but I'll copy this into the description of this video. But just put in the player name, and I set now it's set to common, which is 1. If I change it to 2, now it's uncommon. If I set it to 3, now it's rare. And set it to 4. That's epic. Actually, 4 is the highest. I said 5 earlier, but it's actually 4. So 1, 2, 3, or 4. You can set with this macro. But with right-clicking here, you can only change between 4, 3, and 2. So you can't change. You can't get 1. So you have to use this macro to get 1. So that's how you set up master looting. For the tanks, you open this window right here, and then you right-click, and you set as main tank. So it pops out. So you see this player is duplicated in 2 places. And let's say you want 2 main tanks. So Rekisto is the first main tank, and then Spiderx is the second main tank. So I'll make that individual a main tank as well. So I have 2 tanks. This is the first, this is the second, and they're duplicated. They're in the group, but they're also shown here. And so that helps the healers to see who the tank is, and put the heals that way if the healer is assigned to the tanks. And then you can remove players by right-clicking here. That will remove them from the raid. And you can also demote, and then they're no longer tanks. So I can also demote here. So they're no longer tanks, or I can maybe I want Spiderx to be the main tank on top, and then I want Rekisto to be the main tank on the bottom. That sort of thing. And I can also make one of these individuals the master looter, and also use the change the threshold. So I can make Spiderx the loot master, and then I can use this to change the threshold. But this individual will now be the only one that can actually loot. As a raid leader, I won't even be able to loot at the threshold or above. And then I can use the macro again and change the name from my name to this master looter's name, and I can set the threshold between 1 and 4 in the same way I did earlier. But yeah, that's how you convert a party into a raid, how you can assign someone to be an assistant, demote them back to being a regular raid member, set yourself or others as master looter, change the threshold of the master looter from the icon or using a macro, and how to assign someone to be tanks and remove them, and then how to change the order of who's the first and the second and etc. Tanks. So yeah, hopefully you find that useful. Thanks for watching.